Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with a love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? 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 We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo news. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. Y'all, it has been a really good week over in Rossifari Town. So, this week we had a couple days off from our show, which I'll explain more about in a minute. And I was able to take those days and visit the Maryland Zoo down in Baltimore, and then the Pittsburgh Zoo and Aquarium. And y'all already heard the episode from Maryland. If you didn't, you need to go listen because Margaret is an incredible guest. There were so many comments that I got from listeners just saying how much they absolutely adored her. It was very cool. Yeah, definitely someone I'm already eager to have back on the podcast. And then I got to go, like I said, to the Pittsburgh Zoo and Aquarium, and I did an interview there. You won't hear it for a while yet, but it was with Jen Torpy and Shafkat Khan. And if those names are ringing a bell for you at all, that's because Jen is the co-leader of the SAFE Red Panda Public Engagement Working Group with me, and Shafkat is the co-leader of SAFE Red Panda along with Nikki Boyd and oversees our conservation working group. So, yeah, 3/5 of the executive committee of SAFE Red Panda was there, and we were hanging out and having a good time. We did the interview. Jen walked around the zoo with me for hours, introduced me to a ton of animals. And it was so great. It was so great to talk all things SAFE Red Panda and also to start a relationship with the Pittsburgh Zoo and Aquarium for Rossifari, because there are a lot of amazing people there. And I can't wait to share that episode with y'all. And then also just, hopefully share some other ones. We've got lots of cool people there. And I think it's the start of a beautiful relationship between the zoo and the podcast. Jen and Shafkat and I also got lunch together at the zoo. And then we actually went out to this really amazing place called Everyday Noodles. It was an Asian restaurant where they make their own dumplings and stuff. And we all went to town. It was fantastic. It was really cool hanging out with people who I've worked with so regularly, but like away from all of that. Although, if I'm being completely honest, most of the conversations kept going back to the work that we do because we are all obsessed. But it was really nice, y'all. It was really nice. I've always loved Pittsburgh, and I've loved Jen and Shafkat as we've worked together, and yeah, it was just a really cool kind of confluence of all of those things. We also, speaking of SAFE Red Panda, did have a public engagement working group meeting today, and I can't tell you all about it yet, but there are two initiatives that I'm very excited about. And you'll be hearing about them in the lead up to International Red Panda Day. So if you are a fan of red pandas, and if you are not, why are you even listening to this podcast, right? Then get excited, because there are some really cool things coming your way, and they're going to be things that you can participate in. And I'm very excited about it. So lots of good stuff there. And there's one other story that I want to tell you about the Pittsburgh Zoo and Aquarium, and it's the story of Harbor. And Harbor is a rescue green sea turtle at the aquarium, at the zoo and aquarium. And Harbor is a magical animal. And yes, I realize that is not a thing, but I stand by my assessment. And what I mean by that is that over the years, I have had to have a couple of tough conversations with somebody in my life, some things that just weren't great, whatever. And there was a time when like the first time that was happening, it wasn't the first time, but the first time that it happened when I did it at the Pittsburgh Zoo, I made the phone call while hanging out with Harbor, just thinking that like being around a sea turtle would, make me feel calm. And y'all, I had like one of the most magical conversations with this person ever. And I was like, that's really cool. And I kind of jokingly said, oh, it was thanks to Harbor. It was the Harbor's magic, right? And that entertained me until the very next time that I was at the Pittsburgh Zoo and Aquarium, when I had another truly amazing conversation with this person, where the conversation isn't always as amazing as one would hope. And it was like a really beautiful moment. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so things have been good in the relationship. Everything's been fine. But I decided to call the person when I was hanging out with Harbor again, just in terms of, might as well, I don't believe in this kind of thing, but also maybe ? And just another beautiful, wonderful, supportive, fun conversation. So if you have somebody in your life that you have hard conversations with, or that you don't always know the best way to communicate with, or something like that, look, I'm not a therapist, but the bit of advice that I can give you is to go to the Pittsburgh Zoo and Aquarium, stand in front of wherever Harbor is swimming at that particular time, and make the phone call. It's going to go great. At least that's what's happened in my experience. And I love it because we all know that animals are magical in many ways. And again, while I know that's not actually a thing, it has happened 3 out of 3 times. And I can't help but love that. So real quick, this went longer than I meant it to for the intro, but still doing Janice. We're actually at another theater now, Mount Gretna Playhouse. It's this awesome indoor-outdoor theater. I've played there every year for the last 5 or 6 years, and it's going great. This is the last week of it, and I'm having a great time with it. And one of the cool things about Gretna is it is in a park, and people walk their dogs by the theater all the time. And so you get to play a show to a really great, loving and excited audience, and also see dogs. And then on the ride home, so much nature. There hasn't been a day that I haven't seen at least one animal. I've seen multiple raccoons and deer and bunnies and a fox and all kinds of cool things. So with all of that said, that is what is going on in my world. And it is time to get to it. So without further ado, here comes some zoo news.
Well, it's 1 for the pandas, 2 for the bears, 3 for the monkeys. Now you should care. Now won't you listen to zoo news? Oh, you could do anything, but why not listen to zoo news? Well, it's
All right. So for a headline story this week, we're actually going to, instead of doing a traditional headline story, I have 2 updates to stories that I really want to dive into right at the top here, although I rambled so much at the beginning that it's not really the top anymore. But you get the point. Anyway, the first one honestly blows my mind. So y'all may remember that a few months ago, we talked about the Natural Bridge Zoo in Virginia and the problems the zoo has been facing. As a quick recap, the zoo faced all kinds of issues, from animal abuse allegations to confusing, at best, accounting practices. The zoo was sold, but it was literally just sold to another family member of the family that had owned it, and this person was already in a management position. A lot of the issues got very weird, as legal things often do. And one of those was that multiple giraffes were confiscated from the zoo. But they were also left at the zoo because the government didn't have a place they could just toss these giraffes. So they were no longer property of the zoo, but they still lived there and had to be taken care of by the zoo that the government claimed wasn't taking good enough care of them. And part of that agreement was that 2 of the giraffes that were there at the time were pregnant, and the zoo was mandated by the courts to let the government of Virginia know if and when the calves were born. Then one day, investigators showed up to the park to find that the 2 pregnant giraffes were no longer pregnant, There was even evidence of births having taken place. I think there was some placenta lying around and stuff, which clean that up, guys. But anyway, but where it got weird was that there were no baby giraffes. And the zoo refused to say what happened to the babies, with their former leadership actually serving a 100-day jail sentence because of the sheer audacity of making it seem like these two baby giraffes had literally disappeared. And honestly, I think most of us wrote it off as a mystery that would never be solved at that point. Either they were sold on the black market and it was all covered up, or they died and were buried in a hidden, unmarked grave, something like that. Like, we knew something was up, but I don't think anyone who was invested in the story actually believed we would ever find out what happened. But now, we have. The Virginia State's Attorney General announced that the two calves have been found and are now in the care of a, quote, professional facility specializing in giraffe care. And that's all the information that we've been given so far. So yeah, I cannot wait to have more information about this start leaking to the public. I want to know every detail of where these giraffes were. This is for over a year now, how they were found, etc. But until then, we can rest easy knowing that the giraffes have been found, and the founders of the zoo, by the way, they're still facing a combined 55 charges of animal cruelty, along with additional charges of forging public documents. So not a lot of information on where these giraffes were, are, whatever. It could go to some weird places depending on who the people who bought them or housed them or whatever were. This could turn into a much bigger deal. We don't know yet, but I'm fascinated. I'm also just really glad that they're alive and impressed that they are apparently in good hands. And that's not the only story update that we have here. So, the second update today is from the Nashville Zoo, and as you know, we've been following the fight against the proposed data center right next to the zoo. It has been a good week for the fight. The community has continued to sign the petition that the zoo set up, and if you haven't signed it yet, go sign it. And the legal battle is moving forward, the one that the zoo instigated that we talked about last week. I watched some footage of a planning commission meeting where the community came out en masse to fight the proposed data center. And then it was the whole community speaking, and then one lawyer that was representing the company that is trying to create the data center, DC Blocks, I think they're called. The community did awesome. I was really impressed. It was a lot of people who don't normally get up and speak, getting up and speaking and doing the thing. And then at the end, the lawyer got up to speak. And I mean, look, I don't want to be a jerk here, but like, my dude was just reading in a monotone. And honestly, the fact that he's a lawyer, but is still terrible at reading is really something else. If y'all have ever thought of going to law school and then thought, oh, it might be too hard for me, apparently it's not that hard. His bit of the conversation was absolutely ridiculous. And watching the citizens who spoke more eloquently and more passionately than a dude that was paid to be there and is supposedly trained to be able to impact events like this and make people see things in the way that they're presenting it, it was something, man. It was really something. But that's not the only update about the data center, which is fantastic. So it turns out that there is a second data center that was proposed. It's not near the zoo at all, but it's still in Nashville. And this only made the local community more enraged. To be clear, I was not saying that it's a good thing that there was a second data center proposed, but it brought more people into the conversation. It's increased the overall battle against both data centers, and it's fantastic, and it's working. Earlier this week, the mayor of Nashville, Freddie O'Connell, signed an executive order supporting a moratorium on large-scale data center construction and instructing the proper departments of the government to study environmental, economic, infrastructure, and community impacts of any data centers coming, and also to develop regulations to prevent data centers from appearing in areas that would cause a lot of problems. The EO is written in such a way that it puts community well-being at the forefront of any data center proposal, and it goes into effect immediately. Now, of course, I'm sure this won't be the end. There will be multiple legal battles around the EO and the actual data centers and all the things. But at the end of the day, this has been a very good week for the Nashville Zoo data center situation, which makes me very happy. And that brings us to our births for the week. And we are going to start off this section with some red panda births. 'Tis the season, y'all. Binder Park Zoo has announced the birth of a single cub to mom Garnet and dad Justin. Unfortunately, Garnet didn't take well to parenting, so the cub has been pooled for hand rearing. Since it's a singlet, it wouldn't surprise me if eventually it got moved to a red panda kindergarten situation, or, that other ones were sent there to have it happen. But we shall see. Let's see, that happened in Greensboro 3 years ago, in Rochester 2 years ago, and in Buffalo last year. So, and Knoxville always did it before that. So I'll be curious to see if it happens again this year. Now, we also have a pair of twin pandas born at Auwahans Zoo in the Netherlands. And I probably mispronounced that, but Strix is the one who told me about it and even sent me a pronunciation. So not my fault, not taking the blame, because clearly my Americanized butt isn't the one who messed that up. Anyway, this is the first time red pandas have been born at the zoo in 20 years, and the cubs are the first ones born to both mom and dad, which is always great for genetics, so very exciting. And then while we're talking about some non-U.S. zoos having panda cubs, Kumamoto City Zoological and Botanical Garden has also welcomed a baby red panda to dad Kabasu and mom Xinhua. The little one is doing well and being raised by mom right now. Moving away from red pandas, the Whipsnade Zoo in the UK has welcomed 7 cheetah cubs to the family. Now, this isn't one mom. There are 2, in fact, Amira and Zara, which is great because, 7 cheatlets, let's call them that, from one mom would be a lot, I think. And it's very cool to see this. Whipsnade Zoo is in the process of trying to figure out some stuff about rewilding cheetahs and helping to increase populations that way. So while I'm pretty sure from what I read that these 7 are not going to be a part of that program, just having successful births and stuff is a big part of that right now and figuring all of that out. So very cool. The Rockhampton Zoo has announced the birth of a baby chimpanzee. The little girl, named Cassie, was born to Style and Alon, the alpha female and alpha male of the group. Cassie suffered a fall and a fractured leg when her new mom was trying to raise her, but not doing the best job. So she has been moved to the vet hospital for care, but the hope and plan is for her to be reintroduced to the troop as soon as possible. Hopefully, mom will actually take to mothering. If not, there are other options, but yeah, that would be cool. And then last but not least in the births section this week, the Chattanooga Zoo, or Chattanooga, has welcomed a black-crested mangabe baby to the family. Mom Susie gave birth to the little boy. The zoo is one of only 11 AZA-accredited zoos in the United States that currently house the species, so every birth into that population is a huge deal. So very cool stuff. And then that brings us to our deaths for the week. And another one of the former Sloth World sloths has died at the Central Florida Zoo, where they're caring for them, and has died despite the incredible work that Central Florida Zoo and the keepers and vets and everyone have been doing to try to save these poor animals. So this was a female sloth named Willow, and she is the latest victim of Sloth World. And I need to point out that, again, Central Florida Zoo, doing awesome work. And I love them so much. But I also have to point out that whole no good deed goes unpunished thing, because I saw lots of press around this that had, just rage bait headlines like Central Florida Zoo decides to euthanize a sloth or stuff like that. And they made that decision, but it was the humane decision and they tried so hard. And I don't know, man, it was a bummer. I saw lots of comments that were like, oh, why are they killing these animals, when really they're saving them to the best of their ability, and honestly giving them, even euthanasia is the compassionate choice when it's what those animals need. So yeah, I've been pretty disappointed in that, but I'm so proud of the Central Florida Zoo and everyone there. I can't even imagine how horrifyingly challenging it must be for those people to be trying so hard and still have lost some of these animals due to just nothing that they could have controlled. Yeah, and actually, I'm so displeased. I'm so sad about the sloth dying situation. That I'm just going to leave deaths at that for now. Apologies to animals that passed away, but I think that's all I'm going to talk about today. That's all I can mentally process right now. So we're going to move on from births and deaths and get to the rest of our Zoo News section. The Toledo Zoo's manager of international conservation programs, Joe Wood, was part of a team that recently confirmed the existence of a elusive bird in Papua New Guinea that was last documented in 1972, the New Britain bronzewing dove. The zoo both funded the trip and served as hosts for the trip, and now that there is actual evidence that the bird is still around, more in-depth research can be done to understand the needs of the species, the conservation status, how to help it out, all of those things. So very cool to just see, an ex situ institution doing such great in situ conservation work. The Buffalo Zoo recently had an escape, though it wasn't a very dramatic one. As keepers were moving a bighorn sheep between exhibits, it briefly escaped them, and it was very, very quickly free and then very quickly contained and moved securely to its new habitat. And I really just admire the zoo for putting this out into the world. They acknowledged it. They got ahead of it. They said, hey, this happened. It was cool. All is well. Things happen. And, yay transparency. I think that's fantastic. I hope we are at the end of the era where some facilities think, oh, maybe nobody saw that. Maybe we can get away with it. Because again, we've talked about this before, and FOIA requests and stuff like that can unbury some corpses. And so, I think it's a very smart decision for zoos to get ahead of those things and just be honest. This next Zoo News story is blowing my mind. A man has been charged on suspicion of attempted murder after apparently tossing a 3-year-old boy in the crocodile enclosure of Johnson Zoo in the United Kingdom. As of this recording, what we know is that it appears the man and the boy did not know each other, and the police are still unsure of whether the critical injuries that the boy suffered came from the man or the crocodile or any of the other animals at the zoo. And this is insane. This is the epitome of WTF. I'm truly blown away by this. I just can't wrap my head around it. I can't believe that the police would charge this guy so harshly when the kid was probably being loud and annoying at the zoo and probably looked at the crocodile and called it an alligator. Oh, I'm kidding, of course. But yeah, I will keep an eye on this story because I haven't heard of someone using a zoo animal for attempted murder since Harry Potter kind of accidentally did it in the first book there. And yeah, that was a long time ago. The Los Angeles Zoo is looking at some major changes after a civil grand jury found that the zoo is suffering from declining membership and many facilities in desperate need of repair. The jury found that almost all zoos that were run by city governments in the United States have now turned to a public-private partnership, with the LA Zoo being the only what is considered major zoo in the U.S. to not make that transition. Now, that is, again, what the grand jury found. There are certainly plenty of zoos that are still, run by a city or whatever. But as far as the big ones, the major ones, this is what the grand jury decided. It's the only one that hasn't done that. The zoo is literally just run as a department of the city government, so there isn't much chance of new funding coming in to help repair the issues without the zoo embracing a public-private partnership. And that is what this grand jury found. And I will say it's not all bad news. The same grand jury did find that the zoo has a praiseworthy record in animal care, in conservation, and in education, which I think is awesome. And they also found that the zoo does generate enough revenue to cover basic operating expenses, which is good news when it comes to enticing a private partner to join the zoo, because obviously they're going to be looking to profit as part of it. So I'm not going to lie, when I saw that a story popped up about a grand jury in the Los Angeles Zoo, a facility I quite like and respect and have spent time at, I grew a little concerned. But yeah, it seems like these findings genuinely are there to suggest a way to make the zoo flourish and thrive and continue to do well. The city has said that it will look at the recommendations and take them under advisement, and so we'll see what happens. But hopefully the LA Zoo continues to be the fantastic facility that I've always known it to be. And then last but not least this week, we turn to Australia. Paradise Country Wildlife Park has announced the recovery of Mary, the Tasmanian devil, or Tassie, that was missing for over a week. The 2-year-old devil was found less than 2 kilometers away from the park, and while that is great news, Mary was found in unstable condition and was rushed to a specialist veterinary hospital where she was stabilized. Her condition is considered stable, but critical as of this recording. There aren't a ton of details about what's gone on. I saw something about something going on with her brain, but I didn't have time to vet the source. But yeah, so as of now, don't know exactly what's happening, but here's hoping Mary recovers fully, and regardless that we get the full story, because this has been interesting to follow. And that brings us to
Conservation news time. Oh yeah.
All right, so only one story in conservation news this week, but it's a really important one. So a cyclone in Indonesia's Sumatra area has brought catastrophic flooding and landslides to the area, and these have now wiped out more than 7% of the global population of Tapanuli orangutans, the most critically endangered great ape species. Experts are blaming rapid deforestation in the area for the devastation, along with human-caused climate change for causing so much more rain and stuff in the area. So we've actually managed as humans to screw up this area in 2 different ways simultaneously. We did it, with the whole climate change thing, causing extra bad weather there. And then we dug out the roots of these trees and got rid of these trees and all the stuff that was keeping it together. So yeah, in one blow, 7% of the population of this wildly endangered, just critically endangered animal was lost. And it's just because of what humans are doing. And I think it's so interesting because it's like the perfect storm, right? I hate when conservation news is just bad, and I probably should have been a good boy and looked up some happier stories, but I really think this is worth thinking about and focusing on, right? Because this single devastating blow from one weather event is the confluence of people being greedy jerks in the short term, as far as the deforestation is concerned, and also the constant battle against climate change that we still see every day, right? I know people who are climate change deniers, like in my personal life, not to mention the fact that there are so many people in the government who love to say things like, oh, look, it's cold out. I thought there was global warming, blah. And when I look at something like this, it affected a species that most people don't even know exists. Like, most people know that orangutans exist. They think it's orangutan, but whatever. But, yeah, I don't know. This one really hit me hard because, like, at the end of the day, it's all of the short-term and long-term stuff that we talk about. But the good news, I'm not going to leave it sad. The good news is that this is why we're fighting, and that it does seem like more and more people are starting to care. I've got to tell you, I know, was it a week or two ago, where I mentioned that the younger generations are completely rejecting AI, like by and large, and calling it boomer art and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think even in the moment we're analyzing this really sad story, there are lots of reasons for hope. And that's why we do what we do, right? Let's all go save the world together. In other news. All right, so we have another sad story, but I got another interesting one, and then we'll end it on a less sad one. So a Central Park carriage horse collapsed and died in the city this week while giving a carriage ride, and this has led to renewed calls for the end of the tradition in the city, including from Mayor Mamdani. So we'll see what happens there. This one's interesting, though. It turns out that the horse in question actually ate toxic berries, so it wasn't an example of being worked to death, per se, but, also was working, I guess, in a place where it was able to eat toxic berries. So, yeah. And regardless of the reason of death, it has not stopped the movement from gaining traction at the moment. And I have to be completely honest with you. I haven't done enough research into the topic to fully know how I feel about the horse-drawn carriage program in Central Park, but I am generally opposed to the exploitation of animals, so I'm guessing I'm not a fan, though I am open to hearing from experts on the subject. And I would totally do more research, but y'all, my Thursdays have gotten ridiculous lately, and it's either do that research right now or record this podcast and release it in a timely manner. So if you're listening to this, you know what my choice was, and I'm guessing you understand. But if you have thoughts about the Central Park horses or anything like that, any other, camel rides, horse riding, whatever, all the things, let me know. I like hearing from y'all. And don't forget, one place that you can do that, let me know, is on the new Rossifari Discord. In the time that I've been recording this, I see that I have over 10 notifications from there, so you should probably go answer those. But it's a really cool community and a great place to talk about things like that. And then last but not least, this is one of those kind of true but also not things. So there's one of those posts going around social media that I wanted y'all to be on the lookout for. It's a post showing what purports to be a photograph of a mostly white red panda that was supposedly recently discovered in Nepal. As far as I can tell, the picture that is on these posts is AI generated, and no white red pandas have been found recently. However, it is worth mentioning that back in 2020, there was an albino red panda documented in China. Now, that means where it was located, it's the other species. So it's not a Nepalese white red panda. And it doesn't look quite like the AI-generated images that we're seeing on the current post. That said, there is video footage of the actual albino red panda from 2020. If you want to check it out, you can go to YouTube or just to the Google machine, and it will show you the videos, which shockingly enough, I went and I saw them. And even more shockingly, I thought they were really cute.
Animal, animal, animal holidays. Animal, animal, animal holidays.
Alrighty, so it is still June, which is Zoo and Aquarium Month, World Oceans Month, and Orca Month. Then for your individual days, the 19th is World Albatross Day. The 20th is American Eagle Day. I assume that means the bird and not the clothing brand, although I like A, actually. They have some really cool animal shirts every once in a while. Okay, the 21st is World Giraffe Day, which includes a celebration of the two that we just, found after over a year. The 22nd is World Camel Day, World Rainforest Day, and it's also the start of Insect Week. The 23rd is Pink Flamingo Day, and the 25th is National Catfish Day. And those are your animal holidays for the week. All right, so there you have it, folks. Some Rossifari Zoo news. Yay! I would like to remind y'all that there is a Patreon where you can support the podcast for as little as $3 a month. People who join the group at $10 a month, our Bintron group, and above, get a monthly sticker for free from our good friends at Cappy Trails, and they're always adorable. I'm a huge fan. And if you're a Red Panda level patron, which is our highest level, then I'll say your name at the end of the episode, and it'll sound something like this. Huge thank you to my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Shank, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, Kevin Williams, and Cormac McMuffin. Meow. And y'all, I haven't really brought up the Patreon in a while. Like, I mention it every week, but seriously, it would be really cool if you are able to help support. I try to spend all of that money basically back into the podcast, whether it helps with hosting, whether it helps me get hotel rooms and stuff if a facility can't help me with that, or cover the gas to get to a facility. If you guys like the live episodes and being there and hearing from the conferences and stuff, all of that costs money, and the Patreon can really help offset those costs for me. So I would consider it something worth considering. That got weird. Anyway, I also want to say thank you to everyone who contributed to stories in the last couple of weeks, including Anya Keene, Colleen Linehan, Kim Cooley-Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Rockbuck, Dr. Natalie Taco, Tatum Flores, Justin Williams, Taran Hanton, Dr. Laura Shank, Ren Howell, Jacob Zinn, Holly Page, Nikki Morley, Ethan Ferguson, Dr. Zoe Rossi, Barbara Bennett, Ken Tryon, Marianne Rossi, and Yoshioka, Kristen Dickey, Jake Cash, Ali Malensky, Kay Malensky, The Malenskys, Daniel Cohen, April Taylor, Kelly Palawi, Rowena White, Zach Poe, Crystal Chapman, Jamie Chavez, Kristen Khalil, Maddie Pats, Jennifer Zune, Becca Robinson, Strix, my good translator friend Strix, who I am not forgetting, Michael Sebastian, Melissa Kinney, Rick Schwartz, Sierra Bowen, Sam Evans, Stephen Rossi, Chris Infield, Nicole Lee, and Michaela Baratka. Thank you all so much for contributing to these episodes. Appreciate y'all. We'll be back on Tuesday with a new interview episode. And until then, remember, friends, the words Newsy credits backwards are Steiderk Yiswen. The Rossifari Podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari, or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo. The little girl named Cassie was born to Sile and Elon, the